The home of the common Joe and the common Sally in the know, even more so than all those media talking heads. What is it with you Big Ten schools out there, man? Y'all have some controversy. Y'all go for the straight perverted gusto, don't you? Y'all go around with your little snooty noses in the air and holier than thou attitude and talk about how your academic standards are so much higher than everybody else's, and that's why sometimes you don't win at athletics. And then you have the little AAU thing, which we all know that's all a farce. Anybody can come in and make a 3.8, 4.0 grade point average if your tutors are fixing grades for you. But I wasn't going to touch on this, like I said, but y'all straight go for the morally corrupt, perverted, sickening, nauseous kind of shit, man. First you have Joe Paterno and Jerry Sandusky and what they did a few years back, and now you got Northwestern players doing ritualistic, sexual hazing in the showers in Evanston, Illinois. Let's talk about it. Well, here we go again, riding on in. Once again, the Outlaw Posse is now in effect. And today's Full Horseman shout-outs for the Outlaw Posse go to Eric Taco Marino, Sheldon Lamy, Tim Gillespie, and Keelback First. And credits, Sheldon Lamy is getting a double dip today. He is the one that sent me the link to this story and helped me out with this. As once again, the Common Joes and Sal's in the know, put me in the know. And if you want to get your Full Horseman shout out and you want to be a part of the Outlaw Posse, it's only $2.99 a month, 75 cents a week. You can get your badge. You can get deputized like our newest deputies right now. That's right. The Outlaw Posse is still growing in numbers as we're now up to a quarter of a century. So we now got 25 members with the additions of Mike Wilkerson and Eric Blomquist. They're now saddled up, deputized, and they got their badge. This is the Outlaw of College Football, and I can be found on Twitter at OCF Productions. Now, getting right to it here, seems like the Big Ten is once again embroiled in a bunch of perverted crap. I mean, wasn't too long ago, it's still fresh in the minds of a lot of people about the old Jerry Sandusky Penn State situation that was just completely horrific. And what gets me about a lot of this stuff is the legendary coaches that claim that they didn't know what was going on. When we all know, well, you can't prove it. And I botched it last time. By the way, O.J. Simpson did not kill Nicole Kidman. Yes, she's still married to Keith Urban and probably floating around somewhere in Australia. But just like O.J. Simpson and Nicole, what was it, Goldman? What was she at that point? Can't prove it. But we know it should happen. We know it happened. Jerry Sandusky, as you know, he molested a bunch of boys in the shower at Penn State. And it's some stuff that's been going on for quite some time with this little second mile foundation that Joe Paterno was really supportive of. And he had made Jerry his defensive coordinator, and he was probably supposed to be the next guy in line as a successor to Joe Paterno. So you can't tell me that Joe didn't know, because he did. Just like with Pat Fitzgerald, another legendary coach at his school. Not legendary in terms as one of the greatest coaches of all time, but legendary in the success he's had at an institution that's really hard to win at, Northwestern. I think he's been there 17 plus years. He's an alumnus of Northwestern. So, of course, he's held in high regards. But I don't understand what people don't get about this, man. I love college football just like the rest of you. I do. I'm not being a holier than thou, the Bible thumper here. I'm just stating what should be known as right and be obvious as right. But it's not. Because we're all guilty of it sometimes. We want to put football glory and sports glory in general ahead of human decency sometimes. And just because a coach is great at his profession, just because he's a great football coach, basketball coach, whatever, doesn't mean he's a good human being. people automatically put those two together, and they don't mesh most of the time. Most of the time, people in high positions like that, in sports, politics, any kind of business world kind of thing, they're not always good human beings. Just because they make a lot of money doesn't make them right all the time. And that's another thing people like. Like when I question Nick Saban from time to time, people be like, oh, he makes $11 million a year. How dare you question him? Yeah, he makes $11 million a year. So what? He makes more money than me. It doesn't make him right all the time. Some of the stuff he did, I've called him out. You know, but getting back to the point here, this is some stuff that has been going on for quite some time. Pat Fitzgerald was really highly thought of, and I always thought highly of him too, because nothing else had come about this. But where Pat run into trouble here and why he ended up getting fired, initially he got a 2-week suspension. But why Pat got fired was because he basically was known to be a liar about the whole thing. Pat's been doing it for 17 years. He's been the head coach there 17 years plus an alumnus. So, and they said it was systematic and it's been going on for quite some time. You can't tell me that Pat didn't know about that. Here in the notes, it says the hazing was well known by many in the program. Many in the program knew about it. So you can't tell me the head coach of 17 years and alumnus of Northwestern, who played football at Northwestern, didn't know about this stuff. There was forced participation in nudity and sexualized acts. That's a huge no-no in today's society. Back in the day, they might have been like, oh, it's just boys being boys. As a matter of fact, I was watching 365 Sports, and David Smoke, he was sort of beating around the bush and alluding to that. And I'm like, come on, David, seriously? You want to try to say this is boys being boys? Maybe boys being on boys, like the shower hour at Penn State with the Sandusky second mile. But this is not acceptable, man. I don't care if it was acceptable back then or not. It shouldn't have been. It should have never been accepted, ever. Goes on to say terms for the hazing were running. Running was one of the terms, which meant that they were restrained. The player that they were hazing was restrained by a group of upperclassmen and dry humped in a dark shower. Now, if someone comes up and dry humps you, it's funny. It might be a little perverted, but, not too bad. It's just dry humping, right? Still, not something I would do. But my big thing is, why did it have to be in a dark shower? Why does it got to be dark when you're doing a dry hump? You're doing something a little extra that you don't want people seeing? Or you don't want them to be able to see you doing it to them? Borderline rape is what it is. Whether it's homosexual rape or not, it's rape. So why has it got to be a dark shower, Northwestern? Yeah, so you can do perverted stuff. Probably stuck a thumb up somebody's ass or something like that, fondled them a little bit, and that's just a part of our culture. That's blah blah blah. That's the problem. People enabled this shit for so long. Now social media is so prevalent that people can't get away with stuff like this anymore. Of course they do. In political circles, you have politicians that they've been outed about several perverted things and corruption and crime, and yet they have nothing done to them. I would almost rather go back to the days where I didn't know, that I was oblivious to it, because now it's right in your face and they still don't do nothing about it. It says that players were identified for being punished through running by clapping hands over said player's head. The reason why that's important is because Pat Fitzgerald does it in practice above players who mess up, which is sort of like a signal to the other players, like, hey, this guy needs to be got. Sort of like the movie, A Few Good Men, where they had the Code Red kind of deal, where it happened but nobody spoke of it until something really messed up happened, like this situation at Northwestern. Car wash was the other term. Car wash. They did this by being forced to stand in the shower while other naked teammates rubbed against them. Once again, sexually perverted stuff, man. Y'all look down on the South and the Midwest and talk crap about us and talk about how we're incest and all this, when in reality it's y'all that's been doing this stuff. Y'all been projecting it upon everybody else for so long that you don't want people to know what's in your little dirty closet. Y'all the one that have all the serial killers up there. That's where all the serial killers come from. They're up north, most of them. Most of them. Now, of course, down here in the South and Midwest and places like that, we probably have incidents of perversion and stuff that's not is poor, very, very morally corrupt, but nowhere near as bad as y'all, man. I mean, y'all's is just like illustrious and just out there and extravagant with Sandusky and now the Northwestern situation here. Northwestern, and it goes on to talk about Northwestern struggles financially as far as them going forward, that this was the last thing Northwestern needed. They coming off a 3-9 year. They're struggling financially to keep up in the NIL era of college football. And that's another topic for another day, but I can see that the new wave of college football is not going to be expansion, it's going to be contraction. And teams like Northwestern, who can't keep up because their supposed academic standards are so much higher than everybody else's, and they can't really get athletes because they don't have the NIL money to do so, they're probably going to get contracted and get replaced by somebody else in the future. But like I said, it's another topic for another day. And you guys and gals, drop in the comment section and tell me what you think about all this. Am I overreacting? Is it boys just being boys like David Smoke alluded to? Or is it something that needs to completely stop? I mean, it just keeps happening at some of these campuses around here, and I'm just like, it always gets called out because of social media. Y'all gonna have to catch up with the times and just stop doing the perverted shit. But that's all I got to say about that. If you don't mind, there's a little heart down here. Heart thanks button. Hit that. Throw me a few dollars in the coffers. As I said before, if you want to be a part of the Outlaw Posse and get deputized and get your badge like the guys today did, you can hit that little join button next to the subscribe button. If you're on an Apple phone, I think you have to go to your laptop or computer. They don't do YouTube memberships or whatever on the channels and whatnot for some reason. And as always, KMCA to all the other teams. Like, share, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Class is now officially dismissed.